What's up, guys? We are going to do a full take. This one will contain spoilers here for the new Superman movie. First of the new DCU getting released as far as really any of those big characters are concerned. I think my camera's a little crooked. Maybe. Did we fix it? A little bit? I think we're better now. Anyway, so again, this one will contain spoilers. We're going to go ahead and jump right into this film because I have a lot that I actually want to unpack with this. I've got some notes off to the side here, so let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I want to start off with the things that I did like about this film, right? In regards to Superman, I feel like we got a much better story than we usually get. We got a lot more depth to it. And let me start off by saying this, and I mentioned this at the very end of my quick take. Basically, for as long as I can remember, I've never really been a big Superman fan, right? He's too powerful. He's too good looking. He can't be. He's got too much going for him that I've never really been like, oh, I can root for him when he's getting his ass kicked because he's got something to lose. He's got kryptonite, a rock that like nobody but Lex Luthor can ever seem to find. Otherwise, he always just kind of seems to be the ace that everyone pulls, and Superman's going to come in and save the day because he's got to be 18 different places at once. I've just never been a fan of the Boy in Blue. I feel like we got more depth in his story this time than we usually get out of his films, and that made me really happy to see. I will say I was also I was very happy to see that there wasn't an origin story on this one. And James Gunn had some quotes about this, right? He's like, I don't need to see Spider-Man getting bit by the spider anymore. I don't need to see the pearls drop in Crime Alley to see Batman's parents get killed. I don't need to see a baby Clark Kent or a baby Kal-El getting rocketed away from a blowing up Krypton and brought to Earth and raised in Kansas. I don't need to see the origin story. We are at a point in time where the origin story. Right? They put little drips in there, right? So you could still kind of be like tied to it, but they didn't spend the first half of the movie and then setting up a sequel or something dependent on this origin story. That made me so happy. I will say the reason I wanted to see this film in theaters is because right away in the trailers, we opened up with him in the snow with just bloodied and his ass absolutely beaten. And that was the opening bit to the movie as well. And that made me so happy. To start the tone off that way, that he is not Mr. Perfect, and that there was something that whooped him to the point of having to fly back to the Fortress of Solitude, have Crypto drag his ass all the way back in there, and have his robots take care of him. I mean, like, he was down for the count. And that made me so happy. And multiple times throughout the film, he got his ass handed to him. And I don't even care that it was because Lex Luthor had like studied him and was basically doing Mortal Kombat combos through Ultraman. Like, I don't care. That's fine. I don't care that towards the end of it, right, it turned out to be a clone of him. I thought that was maybe a little bit of a cop-out. I don't even care. But he got his ass beat throughout the entire film, and that made me so happy. Now, it wasn't just physically that we saw him get his ass beat. He struggled hardcore mentally and emotionally with the repercussions of his actions and the public eye between the two nations that he was kind of getting involved with their war, and Lex Luthor trying to kind of weasel his way into that. It was a PR nightmare. The whole film was a PR nightmare for Superman while he's trying to just do good, and everyone thinks that now he's here to do bad because of an encrypted message from his parents. The whole thing was weird, but it worked, and to see him struggle, to see him like hit an emotional low that just got him to the point of having to have the pep talk from mom and dad was amazing. It was great. It was a great character arc to have out of someone that is typically so flippin' perfect as Superman. I loved that. I loved every single second of that. Kind of balanced in with that. Not only was he struggling as Superman, but Clark Kent was struggling in his normal relationship with Lois Lane. We saw a lot of their relationship, and I think even seeing, in my opinion, the highlight of that relationship there was seeing the interview that they held at her apartment, where she's like, I want to interview you as Superman. And he's like, yeah, no, that's fine. And she went into him. She didn't go easy on him whatsoever, and he got heated, and he yelled, and he got emotional about it, and he wanted to walk away, and she even called him out. She was like, you get mad, you pout, you storm off. Like, he was normal human emotions that you and I would go through in these types of situations. We saw Clark Kent struggle with those very things, and again, it humanized him. It grounded him, and he made a call out to that in Lex Luthor, or towards Lex Luthor at the very end of the film, which was take it or leave it. I don't really care. It was there for the sappy superhero moment, I suppose, if you want to say, or the moral of the story. Whatever, could have done without it. I'm not mad that it was there, though. But those sprinklings were there throughout the entire film that set the tone for what we were expecting and what we were experiencing with him throughout, and I loved every second of that storytelling. Crypto. I was so happy in the trailer to see that we got Crypto. Me and Sexy Spence on some of the other episodes had flat out said if anyone touches that dog, there will be hell to pay, riots in the street. They touched the dog. How did they not learn anything from John Wick? Right? And he followed through on this. They took his dog, he went to this pocket dimension, and he raised hell to, I mean, he saved some other people too, but to get his dog back. You don't touch the dog, y'all. You don't touch the dog. And they touched the dog. They knew what they were doing, and they touched the dog. Anyway, loved it. It was a fun little thing to be added in there. I wasn't too happy to find out that Crypto wasn't his dog and it was more of a foster thing, and he was watching Crypto for Supergirl, and Supergirl's partying habits is why Crypto was so not well behaved. I grew up with the Crypto cartoon where Crypto is like his right-hand companion. This is Superman's boy, and he has a lot of the same virtues as Superman does. That's kind of how I grew up with it. And you even look at the Super Pets movie that Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart had did, where he voiced Crypto, and Crypto again, he had these virtues about him. That's the Crypto that I liked, but I mean, hey, it was still kind of fun seeing the dog on screen, so hey, we'll roll with it. Let's talk about the things that I didn't like when it came to this film, okay? Early critiques ate this to pieces, okay? I didn't like what they did with the camera angles while he was flying, while Hawkgirl was flying. It was up close, it was too up close, and as he was flying around and moving around, I didn't like it. It seemed really weird. I'm sure that there was a different intent behind it, but I just really wasn't about it. Now, probably the biggest critique that I will say when it came to things that were being edited and things that were being changed in post-production and things like that. In one of the original trailers, when he is going through a crowd, you see a pedestrian, you see a civilian throw something at Superman's head, and on impact, he had like closed his eyes for a brief second during that impact, and then opened them as he continued to walk, right? And people were in uproar. They're like, he wouldn't even feel that, blah blah blah. So they got rid of it. But then seeing the scene itself, and that people were throwing things at him because there was this message that came out about the fact that supposedly his parents had sent him there to actually conquer or to like control or rule over us. I felt that the eye close would have been warranted, not because it hurt physically, but because for the first time he was really feeling shunned, and he was feeling outcast by the people who he was trying to do nothing more but to serve and to be the best person he could be and to protect. And so I feel like that moment could have been an emotional thing that they could have kept in there, that this man who is impenetrable to everything emotionally, that it hit him. And I wish they would have kept that in there, because I think it would have just spoke volumes to that moment and the pain that he was maybe going through in that moment. But anyway, they changed it. I'm not a fan of it, whatever. They redid the suit, right? Every Superman has to have a new suit. I'm actually a really big fan how the cape was kind of incorporated a little bit further up. It wasn't like back here. It wasn't absolute skin tight. It wasn't CGI. It was a little more comic book accurate. He still had the gold Superman logo on his cape. I thought that was really great. The trunks were a little silly, and I think that the actor had even kind of called that out, but you don't get too many shots where you do see the trunks. I think it was very, very well done. Guys, I mean, let's talk about the supporting characters now. We had Mr. Terrific, and it's funny because I know that actor's voice. I know that personality, and he's in a lot of the things that I've seen. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because even just looking at the spelling, I know that I'm going to absolutely butcher it, but I'll put his face right here. He did a great job with Mr. Terrific. That oddly like flat but super smart, yet really sarcastic kind of personality about him I thought was great. We look at the actress who played Hawkgirl, and I'm pretty sure that she had made some recent appearances for The Last of Us. I'm pretty sure that was her. I think she was also Dora the Explorer at one time. But she did a really good job. Again, I think it was all right. There was a couple of close-ups with her that I didn't really care for how they did the CGI, how they kind of went about that. But it was fine. Nathan Fillion, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. I think that this character was a lot of fun to see on screen. I think he did a really good job of sticking to Guy Gardner's just straight ass of a personality, but he came through. I think in some of the trailers, I had almost gotten the impression that maybe he was going to be a problem for Superman at some point, but he wasn't. They butt heads on some things, but at the end of the day, they're on the same side, different teams, but same side. And I think they did a really good job of him still showing up and him still doing what he's supposed to do as a Green Lantern. So I was really happy to see that. I mean, guys, what else to even talk about with this? Lois Lane, Clark Kent, they had a really great one there. We touched on that, a little bit ago. Lex Luthor was portrayed really, really well, and in just kind of how he went about trying to whomp on Superman's ass. The Engineer was a great bit in there. Ultraman was a great bit in there. Like I said earlier on, turns out that was a clone of Superman. That's how he could get into the Fortress of Solitude. But all in all, guys, this was a really fun Superman movie to watch. This was a really fun one to see the multiple moving parts about it and see how it all became connected, to see how it played further into that story. There wasn't a whole lot of time that I ever felt like, okay, that really didn't need to be in there from like a plot perspective, right? But it was well done. It was well put together, and I think the biggest call out that I have to take away from this from a filmmaking perspective is you look at a lot of the Superman comics. You look at Superman the animated series back in the day, growing up with 90s, early 2000s, and Superman always has a lot of the bright colors going about his world, right? Metropolis is always really well lit. It's the bright, vibrant colors, and they did that very well with this film. But we know that some upcoming future projects that are happening in the DCU are not going to be lit the same way. There's a rated R horror film coming out centered around Clayface, and James Gunn had said, he's like, I want to stay true to each of these individual characters and kind of what their tonal shifts are going to be. So I'm looking forward to seeing his future projects being handled with the same level of detail and care that we saw out of this Superman film without necessarily having to fit on the same screen. So obviously, we'll see as the DCU continues to evolve, as more films continue to come out, but I think that this was a great starting point. I think that this was a great way for James Gunn to walk in and say, this is what we're about, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to stay true to the comics, we're going to stay true to these characters, and I think that they did a really, really good job with that here in Superman. Thank you so much to Marcus Theaters for always creating such a great place for me to enjoy and experience movies. I am looking forward to seeing more and more movies there with you guys. Guys, if you saw Superman, I would love for you to put your take, I'd love for you to put your comments, your thoughts, your opinions on this film down below. Make sure to give this video a like, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it a ton. And until next time, guys, see ya.